This is going to be the first portion or first part of how to resolve the end play in the axle shaft on the Leica Mobile. The play is in and out towards the differential and then towards the wheel when you pull it back and forth. What occurs is when you have the brake caliper on, you don't notice the play because the caliper is stopping the wheel from going in and out. But when you remove the wheel and then move it, you can see it. So let me just take this apart so you can see what I'm doing here and you get an idea. Normally you would have a bearing. Here's the bearing here. That would normally go here. And then you would have the bearing for the differential and then finally the drive gear. But what I did happen to have, because I have to make measurements, accurate measurements, I happen to have a race from a bearing minus the rollers, so I can get in there and measure it. So this slides in here first, like this, and then the brass part of this bearing I have off, that normally would slide into here. I have this part off so it's not in the way. That slides in there next, and then finally the drive sprocket that's mounted that engages with the pinion, that goes on here next. And I don't have the nut because it's not necessary. I can just hold it in tight. So the problem that I have here is that this space right in here, you know, when you stack the washers up, let me get some washers. Show you what I'm talking about. When you take these washers here, and they say you're supposed to put the washers in and that's supposed to take up the any play. I don't know if they mean end play or the play to position this bearing. Normally these washers would go in this location here, like so, and then you would put this here like this and like that. Well, several things. Yes, it does move this this bushing here further that way towards the differential, but it doesn't do anything as far as the end play goes, but you can see that right here. That doesn't affect that end play. So you stack more washers up, and yes, you move this over, you start running out of thread, but it doesn't solve the end play problem. And the other thing that I noticed was these washers are the same diameter as this. So when you put this outer bushing in place, you would think that the washers would be slightly larger so it would prevent the bushing from sliding over. And the bushing does slide over. Let me try it, flip it this way. See, the bushing does go over it. And so that can cause a differential to come across also. So several things are going to occur here. What I'm going to do is, let me give you the measurement first. So let's get rid of that spacer washer. And I'm going to give you this measurement right in here. I have dial indicator. It's, I'll hold this and this like so. And I'll flip it around so we could read it. And I'm going to get dial it in. And I'm getting, keep on hitting things here. Let's do that again. Okay, I'm getting a 180 thousandths. And I can give it to you in millimeters. Let's hit the 186 thousandths, excuse me. And it's 4.73 millimeters. So what the plan is to machine a spacer to fill in this gap. So that would hold this bearing race against the shaft that way and prevent, because what happens is when you tighten the wheel nut at the opposite end, at that end, what happens is you start pulling this bearing like that, and then you run out of thread. You can't tighten it anymore, and that's where the end play comes in, because this slides back and forth. The whole axle slides back and forth on the bearings inside the rear end tube, the differential tube. So the plan is to machine a spacer here that will prevent this bearing from moving. And I'm going to make the spacer a tapered spacer. And the reason being is I want this side of the spacer to be the same size as the race, so it fits in, so it will fit in the race here and not touch the cage. It will fit in the race. And my plan is to make the outer wedge or the outer spacer taller or higher than this, so it's going to be kind of like that, and that will prevent this bearing assembly from sliding over the inner bushing, and so the differential can't move back and forth, because remember, the differential is clamped around this right here. The two halves are clamped around here and the other side, so that can't prevent any motion. It would just hit that race, that spacer. This bushing would hit the spacer and prevent it. I thought when they made these spacing washers up, they were going to make them bigger in outside diameter, bigger, and that would have prevented that also, but they didn't. They made it the exact same size. So that's the plan. I could, obviously, I could just make a straight spacer and then just make another shim and make the shim bigger, but I figured I'd just do it in one step. That's going to resolve the play on this part of it. This is the new shafts that they sent 10 years ago. I have the old ones, which I showed you yesterday, and everything is the same. So the problem existed with the old shaft. This is the new. But the difference was the other end, as I showed yesterday on the video. So once I do this and make 2 spacers up for each shaft, then we're going to shoot another video and show you on the wheel end how I'm going to resolve that problem as far as play. So I'm going to start machining, and I'll show you as we move along.